Hello and salam everyone, my name is Mu'tasim and as usual I am back with some more action brought to you by this cute waifu, Amira. Previously we talked about Amira's looks and how wearing different dresses would create varied effects on the game. In this video, however, it will be more about showcasing the struggle of a programmer trying to obtain the perfect model of his waifu, and my experience in building and creating something that is in the far opposite of my skill set, which is modeling. I know it's not the most perfect model, but as a programmer I am honestly quite proud with how Amira ended up. So here are the various stages and the price points and time points for each step. The first phase was what I call right now as the block out. Initially, the game's scope was significantly smaller than what it is right now, and this is how Amira looked like in the past. As a programmer, even though that's a really simple model, but I simply couldn't make such models. But I had a vision in my mind and I had this picture about a white-haired, lovable waifu that I want to bring into reality. So what I did was spend long hours observing the various different stores, checking out as many assets of characters that I can find, while accounting for 2 points. First, I wanted it to be modular so I can reuse it for other characters, and so I can build the character with my own hands in the custom shapes and look that I want. Second, I wanted it to be a pretty model. And lastly, it has to be cheap. Well, those are 3 things, but who's counting? By the way, with cheap, I mean less than 50 USD. That's the entire budget that I had back then. I found money that I liked, but really there were so few models or assets that allowed me to customize my own character and design my own character with my own hands. Some assets were top-notch, very high quality, brilliant characters, but they are something that I could never make and I cannot customize very easily. Well, maybe a good modeler can, but as I said, I am very lacking in the skill set of modeling. And since I can't create more models like that, there will be a huge inconsistency throughout the project with the different models if I were to use some of them. So at the end of the day, after long hours of work, I found this asset. Link will be in the description, of course. It is a wonderful asset that was really cheap. I got it on sale actually, so it was even cheaper than this. And even though it did not look as high quality as the other models, but I thought that's good enough. I can get it close enough to what I have in my mind and it's cheap. I can use that as a start, and if it works, I can just keep using it. And most importantly, it was very customizable. I could create any amount of characters that I wanted, not just Amira, but also Ward. What is Ward? Well, it's in short the male lead of the game, but that's a different topic. So I ended up buying this asset and building Amira like Lego pieces with basically different parts of different models from the pack, alongside custom coloring schemes and textures that I make for the models. Now that was great and all. The game view back then was fixed in 2D or top down depending on the level, but as I progressed throughout the development, I started to slowly notice that these views are somewhat limiting. They are limiting the experience quite a bit. So the models need to be changed simply because there will be more views, and the fact that I changed the target launch platform from mobile to PC and consoles. Naturally, on PC and consoles, the screen that you're playing the game at is usually far larger than a mobile screen. So we need more details on the models. And thus started the second phase, which is my first ever commission. So after some searching, I found a modeler that I liked their work, and so we came to an agreement of simply having Amira's model transformed from the original look that I had to a look that is made with their style, basically. Honestly, the commission was around 300 USD. I can't really remember much. It was very long ago, but it was not all rainbows and colors and happiness. The commission process was actually very troublesome for me. It was the first commission that I ever made, so that's to be expected. So apparently there was a miscommunication along the way, and the 300 USD were only for the mesh. There was no rig and nothing that helps me use the model in the game. And so to get that model fully rigged, well, I had to pay another 300 USD, which is impossible for me back then. But as I was giving up, the modeler was nice enough to simply copy the rig from that old model that I already had and use it on the new model, which essentially solved the problem quite easily. Development kept going on, kept moving forward, but it's just that the model doesn't look good enough for the game. At least it's not fitting with the rest of the world. So more changes needed to be made. For example, I needed a model that pretty much used textures for the colors and used less materials. The model that I received as a commission had actually many materials to it, which caused somewhat of a performance drop, and it also was using the color. There was not a single texture, it was all pure colors. The hand had a material with different color, same for the chest and same for the legs and so on. It allowed for customizability, but at the end of the day it was also limiting in terms of looks, especially since the model didn't look good in all lighting settings, basically. And that started my third step, which is simply desperation. Until I came across programs that are called character designing programs or something along those lines. Basically, they're programs that are directly made to simply just design characters and make characters rather than the general modeling workflow. It made making characters very, very easy, but it couldn't create any other models than characters, basically. So I landed on a program called Vroid, which I decided to use to build my characters, basically. So after a month of reiterating and learning the import process and actually designing the character, I ended up with this final iteration of Amira. Now, in my simple opinion, this new model was a massive, or this approach actually, was a massive step up from anything that I had previously. And also the cheapest, since Vroid is actually a free program, so that's very great. And Vroid had its flaws while making my model, but at the end of the day, I still made a great model. Even though there was a lot of effort, hours, it took me 4 months just making this character, and reiterating over and over, changing the textures continuously based on feedback that I receive, but the character is there. I honestly felt at one point that Amira's model was simply done, but there were very few problems that I simply couldn't just fix. They were on the top of my head, basically, but I just had no way of fixing them. Now, one of those is actually Amira's old head cover. It was just not that good looking, and even this head cover, it wasn't really something I made. It was part that I reused from the previous model, which was the result of that commission. Basically, Amira's old head cover. It was just not that good looking. It was very square and overly massive. It made her head look gigantic. So a very dear friend of mine called Mary, unexpectedly and without any previous alert, she noticed the problem too and decided to give me a hand with the design. So we talked and so on, and the design that we landed at was this. Well, it's mostly her just drawing over the screen and us sharing ideas here and there, but yeah, this is the design that we landed at, and honestly I am far more of a fan of this one than the previous one. I really like this new design that we ended up with. And as a bonus for me, I was actually like feeling very burned out and like at the very doorstep of a massive burnout. But thanks for her help and encouragement that day, I actually managed to elevate that a little bit and just pull through and keep working on the game. I was still very exhausted, so I worked lightly, but I still continued working on the project. So yeah, I am very thankful for her help and encouragement back then. Oh, by the way, I'll link her profile in the description and the trailer of the game she is working on right now, named Karu. Do check her out, she's wonderful and her hard work really shows in most of her drawings. She has a large amount of drawings actually. So after that, the model was still a step closer to completion, but it's still just not there yet. I needed the actual model of the new head cover, and I needed to fix many rigging errors in her feet, or her legs actually. Her legs just simply, like Amira's legs just passed through the dress. Not clipping, no, actual passing through the dress. Which, as you can expect, like it's something that I can pretty much ignore, but considering the players will be looking at Amira most of their time playing the game, it just made it just felt bad to leave it there, and looked bad too. So the solution was either spend months learning modeling or go to commissions again. Fun fact, I did go with the commissions route this time, but this time it was more of an hourly thing that I did on Upwork. It didn't go all too well, but at the very least I still got the model, or the mesh at least, the mesh and the texture, a UV mapped mesh and a texture out of all the Upwork, which left me with a single problem, which is the rigging problem. Naturally, a good modeler can probably fix it very easily, but again, not anywhere within my budget. Like some required 1000, some required 800 USD, some required 600 USD just for the rig fixing alone, or the weights painting, and that's anywhere near anything I can even dream of affording, basically, at least for Amira. And after long time of searching and researching and ignoring the problem, until finally there was two solutions actually. One solution was suggested to me by a friend of mine, a new friend actually, someone new I met, named Shiba. He's also working on a game. You can see a little bit of footage about it in right now, and the link will be in the description, of course, so be sure to follow his work. His game is wonderful. So the solution he suggested was simply hiding the body that is underneath the dress, and it makes sense. Like, it's so genius. So yeah, that's the new Amira. That's how she looks like right now, with her dress and skirt. It definitely wouldn't have been possible if I was alone. So thank you for listening, and so yeah, please share in the comments below your opinion on this matter. Did I make the correct call by placing far more countless hours on improving the model, or should I have just simply continued with the commissioning process? Or should I have actually just ditched the idea altogether and went with one of the finished models that I previously had? I would love to hear your thoughts about it. And yeah, Amira's page is already up and running, by the way, so please add Amira to your wishlist. It helps me immensely. and feel free to join the Discord, link is in the description. And yeah, that is all, so bye and salam.